Hello, freak bitches. Yeah, I just feel like there's a certain amount of energy that people get from wanting to prove other folks wrong.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure.
And it can help you in some ways. It can certainly help you. But I think sometimes even like when you're talking about the benefits you had of cocaine, like there was benefits to it. It's like you could say things and do things that you ordinarily wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah.
Well, there's the motivation of like proving people wrong. You know, I'll show you. You know, you said I wasn't gonna be shit. I'll show you. Like you get to a certain point in time, that could kind of play against you too, right?
Yes, it can backfire because then it becomes it for me. It becomes like and I definitely did my last, not the album I did, my album before last with that angry,
I'll show you,
spiteful, like villainous energy,
right?
You know, and I was able to make some really great records, but it was the most aggressive music I had ever made,
right? And
some of it was the most aggressive on a lot of levels, not even in the mean way, but just like, you know, just the music itself, and I benefited the you know what I set out to do, you know, it all benefited, you know, but it wasn't the normal way I went out about making an album. So it was weird, you know, and it was something that I took a step back with afterwards and then dropped the second album. I'm like, all right, this one's not so, I don't really feel like I'm like going, you know, up against the masses. Like I really have something to prove here. This is more just like about like just being at some type of peace, you know, and just having things sorted out once all the madness is all done. And it's just kind of just like, now it's just like, right. You know, and that's why I did Indica and then I did Satellite Flight, you know, because I feel like Indica was me just figuring out how to produce, you know, and make records. And then Satellite Flight was me having it mastered and finally putting together something that was just like fine tuned, you know, but in a different structure where I have like some instrumentals and then, you know, they're kind of like interludes. And then, you know, records that were just completely, you know, formatted in different ways. Maybe not the 3-verse, 2-hook formula. Maybe just one long verse and one outro. And, you know, maybe no hook at all. Maybe no drums for the first minute and 30 seconds, but there's like raps. You know, just experimenting and trying things, you know, now that I had that expertise with creating a record, you know.
Did you ever listen to the Brand New Heavies?
I know some records, yeah.
The Brand New Heavies did this rap thing where I was trying to remember the name of it. But it's along those lines, like very experimental. And this is like back in like the early 90s.
Yeah.
They did like Cool G Rap did one of them, and it did it like to like some like actual music behind it. Like it was pretty interesting stuff. But I remember that, and I remember thinking like, man, like why don't more people do like weird shit with music? Like how many people are thinking the way you're thinking, like saying like, okay, how about we just do no drums for like the first minute and a half and then just start rapping and then the drums kick in. Like these kind of things where you're just like coming up with like just a different approach, a slightly different entry.
I think people are just a little scared that they'll lose the audience's attention, which is the very real fear. I get it, you know, but it also goes back to what I was saying. Like I've just been blessed with a fan base that, like, you know, is into what I'm doing no matter what, you know, and that's just dope, you know. But the average artist, no, they can't just experiment, and there's that fear where they might not sell records, and then that's bad for business, and this is a business, you know. So you know, it's understood why most guys don't really do it. You know, I would like to see people do it. I feel like that's not an excuse. I feel like there's a way where people can be a little bit more creative and push the envelope a lot more with the music. Where it fits in a way that makes sense and it's true to their art, and their formula. I feel like there's always a way to try something new and be innovative and bring something different to the table.
If anybody wants to check out that Brand New Heavies that I was talking about, it's called Heavy Rhyme Experience, and it was the Brand New Heavies. It was '92, way back in the day when I was living in New York, and my friend, god damn it, trying to remember his name, stand-up comedian, told me about him. He goes, you gotta listen to this shit. These guys are doing some weird stuff. They did a duo with Cool G Rap. They did one of them with Gangstar. It was pretty badass. that a bunch of different collaborations. So like jazz singers with like rap, like serious, like best of the class back then. Hardcore rappers rapping over their rhyme or their music. It was pretty cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But your point about having the fan base that allows you to fuck around and practice and take chances, that is huge, isn't it? Like this ability that you know they like you as a person as well as like your music. So and they want to see where you go with it.
Yeah,
you're always going to do your best.
Well, they know it comes from a pure place too. They know I'm not like. They know I'm
just a top 10 single.
It's just they know I'm just trying to make some cool shit that they can connect with, and that's the extent every time. It doesn't go beyond that. And the minute it tries to, it just starts to get frustrating. Like start thinking about a radio record to please somebody at the label, then it gets frustrating. If I start to think about this and that for this, it gets frustrating. If I keep it just based on like, hey man, this sounds gnarly, and let's make sure it's not too trippy, and let's make sure it's not too this and not too that, but a effortless combination of everything all at once, you know, and that's really what these past couple of years for me have been like, just mastering that technique as a producer, and you know, really just going all out creatively and just trying new things, because I also internally don't feel like I have anything else to prove as a musician, but I have that itch. You know, like I need to create. Like I feel like it's like working out for me. It's like doing reps and staying mentally fit, creatively fit. You know, so when it comes time to do an album, I've got some new powers I've acquired in the past year. Just like, you know, from just dicking around in the studio for a couple months, just going every day making beats. Whether I'm in the studio for 5 hours or 2 hours, I'm making something. I'm making at least like, on average, I make about. Like in the studio, I'm making at least 2 to 4 beats a day. And when I say beats, I'm talking about completed, sequenced instrumentals that I could make records on. So like not just some shit I started a little bit and then it's kind of cool and I'll get back to it later. I have probably like a baker's dozen of those in one session. But I'll have like 4 that are officially like, oh, these jams are dope. I'm going to sit and live with these. And see what comes up.
So
you know?
When you sit down to write music, do you sit down and do you have an idea in your head, or do you just let it come to you while you're there? Like, how do you know how to start?
It comes different every time. It doesn't. It depends. It could be a bass line that I'm thinking of that inspires me, or it could be me not have anything in my mind and just going through the sounds. Or it could be like, you know, a rhythm I heard, or, you know, anything. It could be a movie I'm watching. Right. I like to, you know, produce while I'm watching movies with the sound off. And that kind of helps me with scoring, you know, when I get into scoring and I'm, you know, doing that. That's my next step. You know, I want to get more into scoring movies and sound design. But it's all, for me, it's all just experimentation and just seeing what happens, and you know, it's not any pressure. And
when you hear a beat, like when you're making a beat and you're creating it, are you hearing lyrics? Are you thinking
Sometimes.
about? Yeah,
I'm hearing. I mean, here's, you know, when I'm hearing something, I hear it completed, right? So when I'm starting a record and I feel like I got something, I'm like, all right, this song, I feel like, and it's back to what you were talking about, because, you know, I feel like, you know, time doesn't really exist. So an hour from now is happening right now, right? So there's songs that are created that I haven't made yet. So when I'm in the studio, I feel like I have this small like peek into this other world and this window that where I can hear the song, but it's my job in the present to find the pieces to make it so. And sometimes it might come out exactly like what I'm hearing, and sometimes it might not. But it's never really spot on. You know, I just hear glimmers of what the song completed sounds like until it's completed, and then it's just everything's perfect. But that's how I can sit there and listen to a mix and be like, something's off. Because in my completed version, you know, it's like a coloring book. Every record starts off in one way, just blank, and I'm just filling in all the colors, and then there's one color still missing. You know. That's what's happening in the final, in the 9th inning, you know, when we're mixing the album. I'm like, man, there's still some colors that just not in there yet. And then I'm going through sounds and I find the colors and everything's full and I'm cool. Or I might not find the exact color, but if something close enough, I'm fine. And like that's literally where it's at, where you have to make the executive decision, like, all right, I'm done with this, or I'll be sitting for another 2 weeks trying to sit with this mix because I'm really anal about it. And if I don't just back away and let it be, you know, we'll never hear any music.
That's a fascinating insight into the creation of music, because I don't know anybody that does that like well, where they could tell me about the entire process from the beginning to end. So it's interesting to get a window into that world, because I always wondered, and I also always wondered, like, I know Jay-Z never writes his lyrics down. Yeah. He keeps them all in his head. Yeah. Do you do that, or do you actually write them down somewhere?
Nah. Sometimes I mean, a lot of my hooks are in my head, but I need to write, you know, certain things down to just kind of make sure I'm making sense. I used to do a lot of my earlier stuff just off the dome, just freestyling shit, you know, and sometimes that works good with melodies. I do that a lot. I'll go in there and just hum flows and try different things like that and melodies. But it's really just a combination. It's never just like, you know, always like writing off the dome. Like some ballads I write completely off the dome. You know, I don't need pen and paper for a ballad. But like if it's
I like
something
that term, off the dome.
Yeah,
that's a great term. I'm going to use that from now on. Whenever there's a joke that I have that's not written down anywhere, it's going to be off the dome.
Yeah, that was, and I feel like that it kind of like, you know, gets people to understand that this is some, you know, the spontaneousness of it, you know.
Is that a term that rappers use all the time, or is that your term, off the dome? Is that yours?
Oh, I can't.
Let's say it's yours. I like to say it's yours. Okay. I like to say I know the guy came up with that shit. Off the dome. It's a very popular phrase amongst the youngsters now, but it all came out of Kid Cudi.
I'll take it.
Take it.
I'll start spreading that rumor.
So you're essentially open. I mean, which way ever comes, you just show up. You show up and you put in the work. You put in the work creating the beats. You put in the work coming up with lyrics. Whatever way it comes up, whether it comes up all in your head or whether it comes up writing it down on paper.
And the sessions are really me and my engineer Ian, and occasionally I have like my brother from another mother, Dr. Genius, coming through, who, you know, was in a band that I came up with a couple years ago. That, you know, we kind of just put together because we wanted to try something outside of the world we were already making music in. You know, the sessions are really small. It's not like I got 20 dudes in there.
Right.
They're kind of sad sessions. You know, they're really sad.
They're probably not sad at all. Well, I always wondered.
I mean,
like,
one could peek in and feel bad for me, like, oh, he's got nobody in the studio with him. But then, like, you know, like I'm in there like a mad scientist, like, you know, I'm inventing. Right. It's not like, you know, an inventor don't got 20 motherfuckers in his lab while he inventing shit. Niggas is steal his shit, or they'll, you know, rack focus and you know, distract him. I find that when you have your friends in the studio, you got, you know, a couple guys on WorldStar, a couple guys on Twitter, a couple guys over here, and everybody's talking about what's going on over here and what's going on over here. You're trying to write this song, you get distracted, you're like, what happened? Oh, hell no, that's funny. Next thing you know, it's 2 hours have gone by, you're still working on this record, you had some laughs, but what you came to the studio for is not done yet.
Right.
You know, and there's money being spent, and there's time is of the essence. This is what we hustled and worked hard for. You know, and I had to remind myself, it's like, man, this has turned into a fucking party. Like, we're here for work. So I also have this like really gnarly work ethic, like, because I've been working since I was 15. Like, my first job was Wendy's. I remember why I wanted to work. It was because I wanted my own shit. I was tired of asking my mom for stuff, and also didn't think it was fair, you know, to ask my mom for stuff because I know we didn't have much. So, you know, work for me is always like one of those things that's very important. Yeah. But like there was also some jobs that I didn't fucking take seriously, like American Apparel. You know, where I was like coming in late and I didn't give a shit. And then like when my boss fired me, like he took me to like this office and kind of told me, and when he said, he's like, I'm gonna have to let you go, I was like, yeah, I figured that. You know?
You knew it.
Because I didn't give a fuck. You know, it was like now I can go to the studio.
Well, it's probably
now
good
I can
for
like
you
work
too.
and like work on my craft, and then maybe find a better paying job, you know, that doesn't have me in the fucking basement of some building, you know, sweating my ass out, folding clothes.
Everybody says you should always do your best at every job you do. Yeah. A champion in life is a champion in everything they do. So if you're going to mop floors, do your best at mopping floors.
Mop the fuck out of those floors.
That's great on paper. But the reality is when you're a young man, sometimes it's good to fuck off at something so you know you don't ever want to do that again. They fire you and then you learn.
Yeah.
And there's some value in that. It's unfortunate, but we don't all learn the best way. You know, sometimes we got to get fired from American Apparel.
Yeah. You know, at least I didn't get fired for like stealing something.
I got fired for being a shitty landscaper. Kept scalping people's lawns.
Yeah, that's fucked up. Now that would fuck somebody's emotions. That would hurt my feelings if that was like the word around town that I've been, my main bread and butter I've been doing, investing my life in, that I was just shitty at. That would hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I wasn't invested in being a landmower boy, landscaper. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, man. There's a completely different thing when you're creating your own stuff, when you're working for yourself. Then it's like a focus, like an obsession almost type focus, like the laser beam. I love that term, the lab, too. That's one of my favorite terms from the rap world. They love talking about being in the lab, creating material.
Well, you are like an inventor.
Yeah.
You're a scientist, and it's kind of like I treat it in every sense of the word, in every sense of that term, I guess, lab. It's like where I'm working. It's work, and I almost don't like playing around in the studio like that, like, because it is a place for work. It is an office,
Well, especially if you're trying to write. If you're trying to write things there too, as well, you're trying to write lyrics, and dudes are all jumping around.
But not even fun. That. What if I'm not? Even just me sitting there, and I might not have an idea yet. Even if I might just need silence. Yeah,
right.
I might just need fucking silence for a little bit.
Yeah, I've never been to any sort of recording studio where anybody was doing anything like serious like that. But I would imagine it's very difficult to avoid the party. It's like, hey, we're in studio and guys come to visit you. Come on by, come to visit.
We did that, so it's like I did that.
Yeah,
like now it's like I've been doing
that's like the music
professionally
videos.
Since like 22, 23, going to studios and having those moments with the buddies. Because in the beginning, it's like you want your boys around. So I kind of got that out of my system, and now it's like, all right, 30-year-old Scott goes to the studio by himself. He's got his book bag. He's in there for maybe 5-6 hours, and then he goes home.
That's smart.
You know what I'm saying? And then he's like, and this is a Friday night, and I'm like, good for you. I'm in bed by like 11:30.
Kapow. Fuck Saturday Night Live. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
No, hey man, that's how you get shit done. That is how you get shit done.
I'm just psycho with it, man.
Those music videos, though, when they show the recording studio, it's always a giant table. There's like all those little switches that nobody understands. Maybe you do.
Mixing board.
Everybody's standing in front of all the switches, and then everybody's partying. Everybody's in the background having a good time.
But that could also be when the album's done and they're celebrating it, because that's what also happens. Like when I'm done with, let's say I finished maybe 8 songs, and I feel like I've got the album, and I just need maybe a couple more jams. You start inviting people to come hear what you got and get their opinion. So you have those moments too. So you might see that happen, but there's a year and a half of just studio by myself before that happens.
Wow.
I don't really, and maybe occasionally I have 1 or 2 friends. Maybe one of my director friends or my fellow actors who I just kind of want, or who have never really got a chance to be in the studio, come by and just get the experience. But they're not in there distracting me. They're just watching and paying attention and want to just be a fly on the wall and see how it works.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are really curious about it because it's almost sort of a mysterious type of creativity. If people aren't involved in it, especially the creating of music, is such a cultural. It's such a cultural influence. It's such a powerful influence. Like music it inspires people. Like when you listen to music at the gym, it can make you work out better. Like you put your headphones on and you play some awesome songs. You don't give a fuck that you're on some stupid stair machine like a hamster. You just keep going.
Yeah.
And the music, you like the music so much, you get into it, and it's in your head, drowning out everything else. Sometimes you don't even realize how heavy you're breathing. Until you take the earplugs out, you're like, holy shit, I'm
getting it in,
working here. It's because of nothing else hits you like that. Like people's words, they don't sustain that way. You can't read an incredibly passionate essay and it sustains you through a workout like that.
Yeah.
No, it's it needs to be just something that there's nothing like music in that respect. It has an impact that very few things do. So that process of creating it is always fascinating and mysterious to people like me that don't have any musical talent at all.
Yeah,
I see it.
I just approach it in a different way because I do feel like I'm just, every time I'm in the studio, it's just like me just trying to create the uncreated, and it's a very private thing sometimes. I want to be able to have my privacy when I do that.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally. Do you do all your writing and everything in the studio, or do you sometimes sit at home?
Oh, it comes whenever, man.
Right.
I'll be in the shower.
Do you have
I'll be in the
those,
shower thinking of some shit, you know?
Do you ever use that note app on the phone, on your phone, where you talk into it?
I record memos, yeah, a lot of the time.
No, not even that. I mean, the note app, you know, you can talk to it. And a voice recognition.
No. I just kind of see if I'm recording something, it's a melody.
Okay.
If I'm thinking of something, it's a melody. I'm not like thinking of raps like those earlier days. It's less about that now, and it's more about like just melodies and coming up with songs and structures.
So you want to hear the sound.
Yeah, and then the lyrics come next because the music is just going to tell me what to say. You know?
Wow. That's fucking wild. That's so cool. Now, how much of your creation is done under the influence of marijuana?
Man, I don't smoke to create. I've come up with a lot of shit sober sometimes when I'm fresh waking up in the morning.
Like sometimes
I have the most ideas at like 8 a.m. sometimes.
A lot of people say that, man. A lot of writers, like Stephen King, I believe, does all of his writing in the morning. I think he does it 9 to noon every day.
Yeah, it's like, man, I'm fresh in the morning with something. Whether it's a melody, and it usually comes just walking through the house, making breakfast, and, you know, it could be whenever, dropping a deuce. You know, I come up with just melodies here and there, and I record them all if something really catches me. Because if I don't record them immediately, then I lose them. So I got to record them somehow. But it's very I'm always thinking about music as much as like I like to deny it and, you know, go shoot a movie and shit, and, you know, I always think about music. I'm obsessed with the idea of just making, you know, the most beautiful songs that, like, you know, really make people feel some type of comfort or some type of understanding, because the world is so fucked. And you know, I just really am obsessed with that idea. I think I'm always going to be, and now I'm just trying different ways of doing that. You know, we did the rap shit, we did the rock album. Now I'm just trying to be this like weird instrumentalist, you know, and I don't really know what that's gonna be, but I'm just really, I guess, in the process learning how to produce better too, which is something that, you know, I've been trying to, you know, I always want to be better, so it's good to, you know, be learning and getting better as I'm creating.
Do you do any other things like other than music? Do you have any other hobbies or any things that like you also get locked into?
I like designing sometimes. Like, you know, I wouldn't look at myself as like a fashion designer, but, you know, if an opportunity comes around, I'll do a collab or two.
You like designing clothes? Like what kind of clothes?
Yeah, like I've done about 5 t-shirt collaborations with Bathing Ape.
Oh, okay.
I used to work there. That was my last job before I got famous, you know. So, like, I have, you know, roots back in New York, and that was pretty much one of those, the only job I really kept in touch with, and, you know, that I went back to and you know, did some things for the fans.
So you just into creating shit.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, shit. You know, it really, for me, I'm starting to write a little bit more. It's just staying creative.
Right, like a book or like blog entries. Like, what do you mean?
Like TV shows, horror movies, ideas I've had in my head for a while. I'll just start jotting them down, and, you know, just everything right now is just me just expressing whatever comes to mind. You know, anything that creatively strikes me.
Yeah, see, that's a dream job for people, to be able to just come up with things all the time. Just work on creating. Your entire day spent mostly just concentrating on creating.
I'm not doing anything with those things yet, but it's stimulating, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I'm going to have some TV show tomorrow or anything, or it's just, for me, it just is stimulating, you know? And shit, knowing me, I'll fuck around and might write the next shit, you know? Like,
right,
you know?
Right. Or
who knows?
Write something that
that's something I can sell, or something that could lead me to something else. Yeah, who knows? But
and it probably also helps your creativity in the other areas as well, right?
But then on top of that, I was the king of being like, oh, I have this idea, but nah, that's not for me, or no, I couldn't do that. Music is my thing. No, I couldn't do that. So now I'm like past that. Now there's nothing. If it pops into my mind, then I can fucking do it because I thought about it for a reason. Mm-hmm. So now it's just about finding time for certain projects, and I'm not in no rush. You know,
so you're not worried about being pigeonholed, you're saying?
No, I think I've done enough strong arming and let me get, you know, my space as an artist where I can kind of do whatever I want now at this point.
So you reached out to me on Twitter.
But it still has to be good, though. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm always feeling like I'm vulnerable to make some bullshit. You know, like I don't feel like I'm invincible. Like, and I think a lot of artists do get to that point where they feel invincible. Like, I am very capable of making some weak shit. It's just y'all motherfuckers don't hear it, you know? And that's because I'm sitting there making sure that there's not weak shit. We're scrapping the ones that are and working on the ones that started off weak, but, you know, making sure that they were where they needed to be before you heard it.
Do you have? Are they like you got to know when to abandon them?
Oh yeah, I know when to abandon some shit immediately. There's certain feelings you get. You know when some shit is the right one and when it's not.
There's jokes like that too. It's very similar.
Yeah,
it's very similar. Some of them you just got to let go.
Yeah, and you can't. And for songs, it's much more emotional to let go of some shit that you like, because it might be on the right track to being something gnarly. Like,
do you put it on a shelf maybe, and like say
you always
revisit it?
Yeah, I go back every year. I go back and listen to the shit that I made the year before.
How do you categorize them? Do you make notes, or do you just?
Nah, they're all numbered. They're just numbered.
You just you go back and you go, okay, this is from 2013. Let me just listen to what I was doing.
Yeah, my engineer, I'll just tell him pull up everything and we'll just listen to things one by one. Flag the ones that are good or the ones that because that's the thing. You always got to give yourself a break, and it's always good to listen to stuff with fresh ears. I find, and also to just give your brain a break, because for me, I'm sitting in the studio for hours listening to the same old shit, like the same old beat, that you're working on, so it's kind of like you need to back off a second. Like, I like to, work on a record, bounce them, whatever, bounce them means kind of compressing all those sounds to one track to make that MP3. But no, that's what you bounce down a file. That's what you guys get on your iPods. Is a bounce down file of all the files. So I'll bounce down everything, the ones that I feel like were close to being finished or reasonable enough for me to listen to and write to. And I won't listen to them that night. I'll wake up the next day, and while I'm making breakfast, I might listen to them then with fresh ears. And I'll be like, oh, shit. Most of the time, it's like, oh, this is dope. And because the night before, I'm just like, oh, this shit sucks. I don't know. I'll listen to it tomorrow. Because I've been in the studio for hours.
You're too close to
I'm by myself, and I don't have nobody to tell me, like, yo, that shit's fresh. It's just like me and my own expertise. I'm just like, right now, I think this is all shit. But I'll bounce it down, and I'll listen to it tomorrow and see how I feel. And almost every time I do that, if I bounce it down, it's like, dope. And a lot of this shit could be for someone else and not for me.
Do you? It's a thing about music too. It seems like when there's a song that I really like, any genre, it's like I really like it. I like it at first, and then I start really liking it when I keep hearing it. I hear it a bunch of times, and then as I'll hear it like the fourth or fifth time, that's when I'll really get into it. Yeah. And it's interesting how music does that. Like there's songs that you need to hear a bunch of times. That's why people don't like new shit. Like if the Rolling Stones go on tour, like they better play those fucking classics. Yeah. Nobody wants to hear some weird shit you've been writing, Keith.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's what I learned. I learned the hard way. You go out and you do Coachella, and it's like, all right, I got fucking Coachella to do. Let's come with the hits. Let's give them the joints they want to hear. I'm not gonna go out in Coachella and be like, all right, guys. So I know you guys know these songs as they are produced on the album, but we're doing them all acoustic tonight.
We're using a harp.
And I'm doing them all in different keys, so they won't even be formatted how you remember them. But I promise you have me tonight on this stage for at least an hour and a half. Maestro. It's just the worst show ever,
Yeah, when you go and do a new show, like if it's a totally new thing, do you do a smaller clubs? Do you fuck around with like rock clubs?
Nah, what were you talking about?
Like if you're going to work, like the first time you're going to do a live perform, like any of your new stuff.
Material.
Yeah.
Tour. Because the tour is like, for me, it's the fan club. I could go up there and fumble as many times as I want all night, and my fans are just like, it's all good. This is the clubhouse.
Right.
This is where you're supposed to fuck up. When you go and do Coachella, there's no time.
Right.
There's no time to fuck up. Everybody's watching. It's like the clubhouse is where you dick around. It's like, when a comic goes to like the club he used to do stand up at before he blew up, because he knows those are his people and he could be himself there and he can try new jokes.
Right.
That's the same deal. Like, that's how I approach tour. I don't let press in unless they buy a ticket. You want to come to my show, then fucking buy a ticket. Because most of the time you give the press their ticket and they're writing talking shit. It's just like you're giving motherfuckers a free pass to come see your show so they can talk shit. It's like, no, asshole. You want to talk shit about my show, you're going to have to pay for it.
Well, people feel like they can't get any attention unless they talk shit. That's a big issue with folks.
But it's like whatever the case may be, I'm going to make you work hard to get in there to talk shit because it is a fucking membership. It's like the only people I want on my concert are people that really give a shit about what we're doing as artists, you know, and you know, understand me as a human being, you know. So let's say
this is a very psychedelic point of view.
Yeah, I mean, because it is at the end of the day, like we were talking about before, it's all an experience, you know, and the show is even more so because it's bringing the songs to life. Like I'm there, it's like a play for me. It's theater. Like I'm out there, I'm the showman for tonight, and I'm taking you to a place. It's kind of like leave your worries behind.
It's like Fantasy Island.
Yeah, it's like I don't really want kids to, you know, the average hip hop show. It's like you see your favorite artists come out at best, perform the hits. They're almost there, but you can't touch them. But it's just dope to know that you're in the same building with them. And then that's the end of it. And that's just what you take. It's like, man, we were in the nosebleeds, but it was really nice. We was, you know, there tonight with my favorite rapper or whatever. This shit with me, it's more therapy. I'm confessing some things through song. You're seeing me, you know, confess these things. You see the emotion as I'm performing, you know, and then there's kids out there that are connecting with it in such a way where it's like, man, I already connect with this dude, but he's performing it in such a way where he means it even more. He's singing it in a way where he means it even more in this environment. You know, it's like, it's a different experience. And I love giving people that experience. You know, I love connecting with them in a way where, you know, everybody at that concert is paying attention and they're there because they want to experience something.